Boom! Welcome back, everybody, to the Omniverse Comics Guide podcast. We are your Omniverse Comics Guide guys. He's Dave.
Hello.
I'm Eric. Oh, I can see it. I'm Eric, right there. I can see it on the screen now. That's Dave.
I'm not even going to try.
I'm watching myself. I'm very, very nerdy for watching myself as we go live, but it's only
Pervert.
to talk to everybody that's watching. That's watching on Twitch. Thank you for tuning in again. Hit the like and subscribe button. Share the show. It always helps, like we say at the beginning of every show. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in and being a loyal subscriber. If you're tuning in for the first time, like and subscribe as well. It helps. It really does make a difference, and we want to make good stuff for everybody.
Yeah.
Great.
Two, right?
Right? And most importantly, everybody, let's say it together. Omniverse
Comics Guide. That's the website,
guide.
right? What's on omniversecomics.guide, sir?
Well, you could go there for your reading orders.
Ooh.
You could go there for your reviews,
Oh,
podcasts, videos, all kinds of comic book goodness. Yes.
Wow.
So you know what I thought of? Because I keep saying it's the best comic book resource site, which is such a stupid thing to say when referring to the Omniverse Comics Guide. If you want to read comics and have a fun time doing it, that's the best place to go for a comic book fan, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's all about
It's
the
not
love
gossip.
of comics, right?
That's what it's all about. It's not gossip. It's not getting the hottest topic on. It's for fun, collecting, reading.
Mm-hmm.
Let's enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Who cares who's
Dave.
being cast in what film? We don't. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go read some comics.
Yeah, let's read the books.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Speaking of reading the books, this was a top 10 that came from your end. Tell us the story. Let's give credit where it's due.
So I think it was from Misha's end. She's kind of like, you always do dude reading orders. There's always male characters. And like, it's true, but like, I think it is a very male dominated. Like the big name characters are generally the guys, you know?
Yeah.
So why not mix it up and focus on the ladies? So it's ladies' night tonight, and the feeling's
It's
right.
ladies' night. We should have had some rosé tonight. My vase from last week would have been good for this week.
Damn.
It's just water. That's all.
It's just coffee.
Yeah, just water. Yeah. So it's the top 10 female-led stories.
Yes, so it opens
Did you
it
do
up
stories
more,
or series?
Well, I mean, I've titled on the graphics. I've titled it "Top 10 Female-Led Comics." So that could be single issues, like it could be one-off stories from a team book. In theory, it could be an ongoing series. It could be a mini. It could be whatever. So we've kind of got it open, so that way we can find some of the best stories. So even if it seems like, well, how come Spider-Man gets his own, but She-Hulk doesn't get her own? Well, I think we'll go into that, to be honest, as we go on. But yeah, let's try and switch the focus up a little bit.
Yeah, it was a fun list to go through because right away I had my usual suspects and favorites. Some of my favorite comics of all time are female-led stories. Because Misha came up with the idea for this episode, let's, on your end, you go first,
Okay.
representing Misha.
That sounds fair. I mean, she hasn't chosen any of these. I was gonna choose one of her favorites and let her explain why it's good, but like we didn't end up crossing over. So instead, I am choosing for my first one tonight, Birds of Prey.
Nice.
I've been reading this for a little while now, over the last couple of years, because I'm doing that chronological DC read through. This is volume 3, so this collects Birds of Prey 12 to 21 and 2 issues of Nightwing, and that is the particular part of this book that I'm going to talk about. So it's the Hunt for Oracle crossover. It is a 4-part crossover event with Nightwing. So it's 2 issues of Bop and 2 issues of Nightwing, and it's gold, man. It is gold. So I love Chuck Dixon. Absolutely love Chuck Dixon. I think I've really started to appreciate his writing on G.I. Joe. His G.I. Joe stuff is so cool for IDW. If you haven't read it, I'm doing a reading order, so check that out when it's ready. Probably early next year, though. Bear with me. It takes time. Yes, Birds of Prey, The Hunt for Oracle is a 4-parter. This build-up has gone on for a long time where Oracle is Barbara Gordon, as we all know as readers, but she sends Black Canary out onto missions. but they've never met. So Black Canary doesn't know who Oracle is, but she takes these jobs and she does the missions. Now, it's through this volume, which is kind of year 2 of the ongoing series, where it really starts to ramp up. You do get some additional female characters appearing in there and kind of helping out, but they're not actually part of the Birds of Prey. Like Catwoman appears in a 2-3-parter, and Power Girl appears for a couple of issues as well. So there's an initial storyline that leads into the hunt for Oracle, but when it kicks off, basically Blockbuster, who's been an ongoing bad guy in Nightwing, as the main criminal, the kind of kingpin of Bloodhaven, he wants to get hold of Oracle because she turns out she's been like taking all his money from his secret illegal accounts and using it for what she wants to fund the Birds of Prey, basically. And he's going, I want to find this Oracle and I want him dead. So it's all about him trying to get to Oracle while Black Canary's trying to get home from a mission abroad to come back and come to her aid. But she doesn't even know who she is still at this point. So it's all about, like, is this going to be their first meeting? Is she even going to get there in time? And while it does cross over with Nightwing, you find that actually Nightwing he's in there, but he's almost peripheral because it's his villain against the Birds of Prey. And while he's present and Robin is there and Alfred is there, it doesn't quite go the way you think it's going to go. So it's brilliant. And the suspense is fantastic. And it is just all about those two. How are they going to meet for the first time? What's going to happen? And it's perfect. It's great storytelling. Art by Butch Guice on the Birds of Prey side. I think it's, funnily enough, Greg Land, don't swear, on Nightwing. But it was before he started doing that very generic art, let's face it. A lot of his characters start to look the same by the time he was on books like X-Men. It's way better. So it's great. It's great stuff. So that's my first choice for tonight. It's great. I don't know how it progresses in terms of those characters. I think when Gail Simone jumps on, I don't know how many years later, I think they start to add other characters in, like Huntress. But this just being that pairing, Oracle and Black Canary, it's great. It's great stuff.
That's really cool. I haven't read any of that. I was thinking about putting the Birds of Prey that I have read from Gail Simone, which isn't a ton, but it wasn't vivid enough in my memory to be able to talk about it with that sort of, I know, like I did have a good time reading it though, because I tend to like female-led books. I realized I enjoy the superheroing from that aspect oftentimes because, like you said, it's such a male-dominated genre. Like the toys, they were action figures, right? Like comic books were just action figures on the page.
Yeah.
Is that going to appeal to more young boys, right? So naturally, there's going to be more characters throughout time. But now that we've caught up to a point where there's a lot of universes where the female takes the lead and the writing is so good.
Well,
that it's some of the best stuff you've ever read, like in that universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny as well because I don't want to veer too far into this in case one of us talks about it tonight. But I mean, when you look back at like the X-Men as a team book, it was predominantly female led. Obviously, Wolverine is probably the most popular character, but Storm took over from Cyclops as leader. There were all the strongest characters, and most powerful characters, most interesting characters were female. So it's interesting, but like it does seem to be more of a team book thing, I think, a lot of the time because it's been such a male-targeted audience. It's been aimed at, mainstream superhero comics have been aimed at primarily at boys, and the kind of girl comics don't tend to sell as well. So, and they also then don't put the top creators on those comics. So then that's why those characters don't tend to grow so well. But I mean, this is what's perfect about this. Chuck Dixon didn't want to write that book. He said, I don't want to take this book. I know you want me to take it. I can't remember who the editor was, but he didn't want to have it. And then it kept percolating in his head. So you have got a male writer.
Was it Denny O'Neil?
It might have been Denny O'Neil. It might have been, but I'd have to check.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Very nice shout out to Birds of Prey. Well deserved because they're great characters.
Yeah.
Some people prefer Barbara Gordon as Oracle. Like she's just a much more interesting, layered, nuanced character.
Yeah.
And
she really steps it up in this story.
Almost more dangerous.
Yeah.
It was invaluable. I don't know if you played the Yeah, the Arkham game. I don't know if you
Yes.
played the Arkham game on the that was such a cool feature when she would come through and talk to him and give him info. You're like, that's how Batman could work. He would
Yeah,
need an oracle. That makes perfect sense.
absolutely.
Yeah, she was invaluable to the Batman universe during those years. Really
Yeah.
was. Nice pick.
Thank you.
All right.
What do you got?
I don't know if this is cruel to do, but if it's at all possible, we've said often digital is the way to go,
Uh-huh.
right?
It's certainly an
And
option.
I needed to shout out Faith. This is the limited series, issues 1 to 4, which
Right.
was her like first sort of solo series. She is a team member of the
Renegades?
Renegades.
Yeah.
That's what they're called. The comic that they're in is Harbinger, which is essentially the X-Men esque book of the Valiant comics universe.
Yeah.
They kind of play that role, and she's a team member who is, as they call him in Valiant universe, a Psyot. She's got extra abilities if they're tapped into and activated. The dangerous thing about a Psyot is that only 25% survive the transition into being a Psyot.
Yeah.
The majority die until she encounters the leader, as you say, of the Renegades, Peter Stanchek. But that's not about them. This is about her. It's she's a fangirl.
Yeah.
She loves comic books as much as the people reading them. Quality book, quality story by Jody Hauser. It's one of those books that makes you realize comics is for everybody, and you can identify with any character.
Yeah.
I don't identify physically with Faith, but in a lot of ways, I do identify with her,
She's
right?
the again. This is like the funny. It's not to go all like, oh, isn't our society so? Blah, blah, this isn't social commentary, but there is a little in that. The term everyman is a masculine term, but like the Spider-Man is the everyman character of Marvel. Flash is the everyman character of the DC universe. I think Faith is the everyman, every woman. She's the every person character from Valiant.
Yeah,
And I wasn't sure again, like if
yeah,
it seemed like, is this going to be just a tap into the fangirl base in a cynical way? But I like the character straight off. Like, you can't not like the character, And it's funny because when
yeah.
she does, before that storyline, she joins Unity,
Yes,
the super team, their super team. But their super team is very different from the Avengers or Justice League, and the way that
right.
turns out is like her reaction to it is just, it's great. That moment is great. It's awful but brilliant at the same time. I think that was by Matt Kent, that story arc as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's at this time. I know we talk about it often. We always shout out Valiant. It's deserved, and this is a character, a female-led book of one of their best characters all around. She's just fun. You have compassion for her, you're rooting for her, you want to see the world through her eyes and see how she maneuvers through it, knowing that she's the antithesis of what a female superhero has looked like, right?
Yeah.
She's a big girl. That's
They
and
don't
you realize
sweep that under the blanket or try and adjust that or try and then make her buff by the
yeah,
end of it.
yeah.
It's just like, this is how this is going to work. And it does.
And it doesn't feel forced.
No,
It
never
doesn't feel
feels forced.
forced. That's the key. And it's not telegraphed. There's a
No.
lot of stuff that sometimes you can predict it. Like, I bet in this much time they're going to do this.
Yeah.
With Faith, she's just Faith.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about her.
Uh-huh.
Much like Miss Marvel. If
Yeah.
you enjoyed that early series from G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alfana, this will be up your alley for
Yeah.
sure.
Nice.
Get it digital. It's a lot of fun.
If you're lucky, you might be able to find it in trade for a half decent price. So there are books out there, and some of it's just a pursuit with Valiant. But now that Valiant are going to go through Alien books, there's a good chance we'll start to see more collector editions, if the audience proves to be there, obviously. So get on it, support it. It's really good stuff. It's so good. And Eric basically put my hand behind my back and made me keep getting this or get back into it after I gave it a taster. It was like, no, go back into it. So I'm like, all right. And I did, and I absolutely love it. And yes, a reading order is on the way. So I've been reading everything.
Okay, Dave, you're number 2.
Okay. My number 2 is I'm going to stay in the DC universe for a little longer for this. chunky little book here. This is Chase. So,
Oh, I can't see it. I should put my glasses on.
there we go. There she is. That has given me a really good way of just refreshing my memories. She's Cameron Chase. She's Agent Chase. It's Cameron Chase. So she works for Agent Bones in the Department of Extra Normal Operations. The DEO are almost kind of like they're almost S.H.I.E.L.D. in the DC universe in a way, but a lot more low key and mysterious. So this is her going on a series of missions and looking into some of the stranger behind the scenes stuff of the DC universe. And this is around about 97 to 98, I think. 1997, 98. Chase only lasted 9 issues, but she was introduced as a character in Batman 550. And this book has all 9 issues, the 550 issue, and a lot of the Chase stories that appeared in the various DC Secret Files and Origins one-shots, issues. Not always one-shots, are they? Some of them are annual or whatever. I love Secret Files and Origins. I know I said that recently on something. I love those books. I don't know what it is, because you get all the profiles and then you get like a story and an untold behind-the-scenes bit of like, if we had more pages, this is the bit when everyone reacted to Superman being electric, for example, or whatever, in the JLA Secret Files and Origin issue. And it's great. Like, they're nice little comics. But she appears in a number of those where she's just investigating some of the strange stuff for the DEO. But on top of that, I mean, she's an interesting character because she's that little, in a way, it's doing that comparison thing again, pre-dating, but she reminds me a little bit of Alias, what's her name? Oh God, I've forgotten the character's name. Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones?
And a little bit, yeah, but she's a bit more together, and she's like a ridiculously good agent, but she's got some issues in her past and all that kind of, you got to have a bit of backstory for your character, right? And I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, you have to have some skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, otherwise, who are you? So, because it's not overly long, I don't want to spoil it too much, but you can find this if you're lucky out there. And it was one of those titles at the time when I used to actually go in a comic shop where people were going like, you gotta read Chase. Like, people go like, you're reading Chase? And they were like harassing other people in the shop. You're reading Chase? And they're going, no. I'm buying 16 Superman books a month. I can't afford to read Chase. But it was great. And J.H. Williams provides some of the art as well. And I think he plot it? He plots it. He plots it and draws the majority of that main Chase series. So it ends with issue 1 million as well. So it's kind of issue 10, but it's issue 1 million. So it's set in the future as part of the DC 1 million event. But that's a really good issue as well. So it's probably one of the best issues of DC 1 million. And it essentially stands alone. It's great stuff. And she's a cool character. But you mostly only see her as a background character at the moment. But she was worthy of that series. And it's a shame it didn't carry on. But it doesn't mean this doesn't work as a really good standalone read.
Nice. Good pick. I mean, another one of the things that would have been on my list, but I've been mentioning it quite a lot lately, was J.H. Williams' Batwoman. Big fan.
Yeah.
Big fan of that series. That would have been on my list had I not been mentioning it a couple weeks ago. Love that series. He's really good too in that realm of female-led characters.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He does the same with Echolands in a way, doesn't he? Like, the main character is female in Echolands, and that's another great book.
Great book.
Really good book.
Great book. Yeah. Good pick. All right.
Thank you.
So, I just had this.
Yeah.
I was given a gift card from my mom for
Hi, Eric's mom.
To purchase.
Thanks for watching.
And I used the gift card to buy the complete collection of Spider-Woman.
Is that the Dennis Hopeless series?
Dennis Hopeless. Yeah, Dennis Hopeless. It spins out of Spider-Verse. There's a 4-issue miniseries, or the first 4 issues begin in Spider-Verse. And they're not really well received. I didn't mind them because it was kind of like the story happening that you didn't see. However, the series becomes something completely different. It becomes a little bit more lighthearted and comedic, but also high stakes. She becomes a mother. There's like a whole mystery of her becoming a mom, not knowing how it all happened. But as hijinksy as the book can be, like, I think the nanny of the baby is the Porcupine, like a very B, C level villain, like very strange.
No way.
Yeah, it's a great series. It's one of those books that was it post Secret Wars or in and
Yeah,
around
I think that
that those years?
yeah, it was the first few issues were Spider-Verse, and then building to Secret Wars. It might even have been some Last Days issues in there. I can't remember. And then it relaunched with a new number one after Secret Wars with everything else. But he stayed on it, and she was pregnant
Yeah.
from that point.
Yes. So I think that the numbering restarted, or because there's also a moment where this crosses over with Spider Gwen and Silk in the Spider
Ah,
Woman. There's a Spider Women book
yeah.
where they travel through dimensions and time, which is also a good crossover.
Is that in
But
there?
the Spider Woman,
All collected?
it's not included in that. It's not included in the all collected part.
Okay.
It's included in the Gwen, the Spider Gwen omnibus. It's
Right.
included in there. I'm not sure why they wouldn't put it in the Spider Woman. If they maybe added those issues, it would have become like an omnibus
Probably.
size
Yeah.
because it's just under 600 pages.
Oh, wow.
So it
Yeah.
kind of feels like a really chunky epic collection, but
Uh-huh.
almost like a compendium. I received it today, of course, damaged by Amazon because they like sending things ruined. So I'm gonna return it, but it's a beautiful book and it's a great series. So it's got a little bit of the lighthearted humor, but also a high stakes level storyline that I don't know if Jessica Drew Spider Woman has ever had that much of a like, hey, you got to check this out and read it. It's actually really good type of era of comics. This one stands out.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Well, it's both Meat Trunks and Omega Bread say it was great, and I'm pretty sure we talked about it in the Discord. But I was trying to think who was talking about how good it was in the Discord.
Yeah, it's a great series. I think it's a great starting point if even if you don't have a huge historical knowledge on Jessica Drew and all her, not versions, but teams she's been on, where she's been within the Marvel. You don't need doesn't it won't affect you. It really is pretty concise in what it collects. So the Spider Woman that you see in the most recent Spider-Verse movie, the costume when she's on the
I haven't
motorcycle,
seen it yet.
very much inspired costume design and whatnot from this run.
Okay.
So check it out, everybody. Spider Woman. I don't know if it was Marvel now. Uh,
Yeah, it would be
what the
all
label would
new,
have
all
been on the
different
spine.
Marvel.
Might have been
I
all
think
new,
it's
all
that.
different Marvel. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Nah.
Look it up on your wherever you buy books from. Ask for the Dennis Hopeless Spider Woman. Thanks to my mom for buying it for me. Jessica Drew being a mom. Of course, I gotta get
Yeah.
that book.
Ah, symbolic. Nice. Nice. Nice.
All right, number 3 for you.
So, my number 3 is from Oni Press. It's action journalism with Kate Kelly. It's heavily influenced by the old Jimmy Olsen comics. Jimmy Olsen would have these stories where he like gets turned into a giant lizard or some weird shit happens and Jimmy Olsen's got to deal with it, and he doesn't necessarily call on Superman to rescue him. He's just like, yeah, this week I'm gonna go and jump out of a ship through a wormhole in space and investigate another universe because you know what? It's the Silver Age. So
Mm-hmm.
weird stuff. So it's heavily influenced by that. I mean, anyone who's read the Jimmy Olsen, if you didn't read the old Silver Age Jimmy Olsen comics, you may have read the Matt Fraction Jimmy Olsen series, which incidentally is brilliant. It's one of the best titles I've read in a long time. I absolutely loved it. It's so weird, brilliant.
It's so silly.
It is. It's ridiculous. But hey, I like a bit ridiculous. This is very much like that. And Kate
Yeah.
Kelly is a slightly borderline Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen kind of mix up where she goes into these really strange situations.
There you go. There
We're
you
doing
go,
it. We're
mixing
doing it, aren't
everybody
we?
up again.
We're
Look,
doing it.
That's all you ever do. You just compare
It's
characters,
lazy.
Dave.
Lazy, isn't it?
Yeah. The Omniverse comics comparison.
Yeah, the Omniverse Comics lazy guide to, do you know what? It's this and this. Done. Off you go. Make your own mind up.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, she goes to like other dimensions. There is a superhero element in this. There's some alien invasion stuff, and it's just her reporting on it. And it's they are kind of interconnected. They feel like kind of standalone stories, like that Silver Bronze Age Jimmy Olsen stuff, but it's got that modern edge to it. So it's just really good fun comics. And then at the back, there are some short stories, which I think at the end of each single issue, they had like a 2-page story, in each one by a guest artist. And there's some really... Oh, Max... Now, it's Max Sarin, who is the artist on Giant Days and the Great British Bump Off, which we were talking about recently. He does a 2-pager in there, and it's so good. It's so beautifully drawn. Yeah, it's just a fun sort of adventure journalism comic. It's like, what a weird combo. But there it is. It's a great fun book. I'm hoping they do more. It says volume 1 on it, so maybe we'll get a volume 2. But it only came out this year, so nab it. It's great. It's good fun stuff.
Nice pick.
Thank you.
What's it called again? One more time.
It's called Action Journalism. Who writes Action Journalism, Omega Bread? I'll tell you. It's written by Eric Skillman and... Oh, is this why you asked me? Because it's the test. It's by Eric Skillman, Miklos Feldovaki, and Marianne Gusmao. I'm really sorry. I'm terrible at names.
Nicely done.
Thanks,
Nicely
Brad,
done,
for
Omega
setting me
Bread.
up.
That was good.
We've got the Kickstarter spotlight for late November, so we do 2 of those a month. I say we. Misha does it. I don't have a clue. So she gets on that and looks for books that are worth a promo. Yeah, take a look. There's some really, really, really good-looking stuff. You can also take a look at the Showdown crossover event from pre-Crisis Superman. So Superman and Action Comics crossover, where they rejigged Lex Luthor and Brainiac, so they line up with the Kenner superpowers figures, basically. So George Perez's redesign of Lex Luthor, first time with a war suit, and Brainiac more as a robot. I'm again loving reading Bronze Age DC. It's silliness.
Really?
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm really glad I've dipped into it. And it's funny that the reaction's been brilliant because no one's really covering it. People just go, it's the Bronze Age stuff. It doesn't count anymore because of Crisis. The comics still exist. They're fun.
Yeah, the story. Yeah.
We've also got the latest Speakeasy episode. Also, for subscribers, we've got another exclusive, which is our very first What to Read Before entry. And this time around, I thought we'd start with the DC. So, What to Read Before Legends. So, it's all the stories that influenced Legends. Some of it is New Earth continuity. Some of it's pre-Crisis continuity, because that was the tricky thing at that time. They didn't kind of do a straight cut restart. Some of it bled over. Yeah. So there are notes in there to say, like, this isn't considered continuity anymore and blah, blah, blah. So it's hopefully broken down in a way that people can follow. But it just points out some fun stories you can read. Some that are maybe a footnote. This is what happens in this and this is why it influenced it. So, yeah, but that's just for subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, you don't get nothing. You just got all the other stuff that we do as normal. But I'm aiming to do 2 subscriber exclusives for December. It's a little Christmas present to our most loyal folks. So, yeah, keep an eye out. And thank you to everyone who subscribes and supports the Omniverse Comics Guide. It's genuinely, really, really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to your regular schedule program. So I am going to pick something that I think I've recently picked on another countdown. And apologies for that, but I love this book so much that I said, screw it. I don't know if I picked it. Close. It was close. And I said, No, really? It was close. I don't know if anyone knows in the chats when I listed this one, because I'm pretty sure I listed it recently. I don't remember, but this book, Catwoman of East End.
Hidden Gems.
This book, is it a hidden? Probably.
Yeah.
Catwoman of East End it's great. It's just a ton of fun. It starts off with Ed Brubaker and Darwin Cook working on it together. The rest of the book is Paul Gulacy, Cameron Stewart. I'm surprised I didn't give this a chance. There was a lot of times where you see the collected editions. Like this had a couple of collected editions where you can get 1 or 2, 3, maybe 4 trades in total, and you get the whole series because it's Ed Brubaker. But I was kind of like, it's Catwoman. How consequential is it? The whole Batman world. Who cares? If you can find this omnibus for a good price, It'll be worth your while. It's a very, very fun read. She's such an interesting character. There's the romance with her and Bruce as well as somebody else, and you don't even know who you want Selena to end up with because you just the way that she's written, it's that crime noir sort of thing, somewhat of that feel that the animated series gave you, where it's sort of timeless, the art, but it's definitely feeling like you're in that 40s, 50s detective sort of vibe. The
Oh
way the
yeah,
characters are drawn, and
yeah. 'Cause
it's
I've read
great.
the
It's so
Selena's
much
Big
fun.
Score one shot. That's all I've read from it because it was in the Darwin Cook Ego and Other Tales book.
And it gives you sort of that vibe for the rest of the way. Like Darwin Cook sets it off, and it's not his art throughout, which would have been incredible if it was, but that's not to take away from the quality of this book and this story. It's just a ton of fun. And I know I've mentioned it before, and I was going to mention some other ones that I really, really like, but I said this is the one that I'll give a cheat for
It's fine.
because I Catwoman. Have you gotten this book?
Yeah. Well, I had the trades.
Yeah.
So there were three trades.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's
I think
right.
I
Three
read
trades.
asked if it was the entire Brubaker run, and I think it is, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So there were three trades. I think they were a little on the chunkier the normal side slightly, and then they announced
Yeah.
this and went like, I haven't even read it yet, but I know it's going to be good. So I switched it up for the Omni because you've got Brubaker, you've got Diamond Cook. The art on this is immense before you've even started reading the story. So I just kind of get
Yeah.
the feeling I'm going to like
It's
it. I'm not a massive Catwoman fan as a character. I think she tends to work better as a support cast character or recurring, not villain necessarily, but you know,
this was an example where I felt like she can hold her own in her 37 issues. Ed Brubaker, 37 issues. It crosses over with Detective Comics 759 to 762. I don't know if that's in the Cataclysm or the
war
Hush
crimes or something.
Occurs. Could have been. Could have
Um,
been. I forget now. But somewhere in during this run, the Hush storyline occurs, and you can see the shift in the narrative during the main series.
right.
So it's a pretty key time in Selena's life. It's really good stuff.
It's Brubaker, man, and again, like this is just
Rube,
it.
and that's the other thing too.
Yeah, there's no bad character. There's just like who you get working on that character. You get the
Yeah,
right creative team, you're on a winner.
yeah, yeah. It was a great blind buy in a lot of
Mm.
ways. Did that come out in 2022 or 23? I think 22.
It was last year.
Read
Yeah,
it within the year.
yeah,
Yeah. No, great book. Great book.
nice,
Highest recommendation.
cool. If you haven't got it, get it. So, my number 4 is By the Horns. It's from Scout Comics. Elodie is the main character. Yeah, she wants to kill all the unicorns because they caused the death of her husband. Yeah, I remember talking to Misha about it, and I went, "Oh, it's this great book. It's called By the Horns." And she went, "Oh, it's got unicorns on the front." I'm like, yeah, yeah. So she wants to kill all the unicorns, and she's like, "Oh, that's not good." I'm like, no, 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 no. It doesn't go the way you think it's gonna go. As you know, the best stories
No, no,
tend
no,
not
no,
to.
no.
So it's a good fun book.
That's
It's
great.
it's the art on it is beautiful as well. Let me ruin the names for you. Here we go. It's
Please.
written by. I'm so sorry. It's written by Marcus-San Naso, and the art is by Jason Muir. Volume 2 has been due out for a while. I think you can actually get it in digital, or you can at least buy the single issues in digital anyway. It's a really fun book. So, yeah, pick it up. It's a great female character as well. She's a real... she veers into more like the kick-ass female character. To a degree, they play with that trope of like, I'm going to take charge in a very kind of almost masculine kind of way. And then it's like, oh, is this the right way? Is this the right way? Am I doing the right thing? There's just some weird support characters. They're fantastically strange. It's great. It's great world building, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Nice. Very random. By the Horns.
By the
Scout
Horns.
Comics.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's cool.
Right. Dave coming out of left field. I'm gonna have to stick with the mainstream completely then, because
It's
we're
what you
gonna give
like.
it the balance. I hope we don't do an Ed Brubaker creator special anytime soon, because my next pick is also an Ed Brubaker book.
Next
Love
month,
it.
next week, we'll do. Ah,
Next week we'll do Ed Brubaker. It's 15 issues,
mm,
all in here. Features the titular character Velvet. She's a female spy, James Bond female spy, but she's so kick-ass. The art in here by Steve Epting. Thriller spy comic, espionage, all kinds of twists and turns. It keeps you at the edge of your seat. It's a nice finite series too. It's very rare where I feel that the cover is done in a way it's definitely like a movie poster, but as different as the art is on the inside from like the design of that cover, it really does. The character on the inside matches what you see on that front cover
yeah,
of this book.
absolutely.
And again, Ed Brubaker, there's just so much in his bibliography worth reading. You can't go wrong. And when you do lists like this, where we're not even talking any particular universe or it doesn't even have to be superheroes, you realize, and it slipped my mind that this was Brubaker and so was the Catwoman. I'm just like, oh shit.
Well,
This
between him and Greg
and
Rucka,
it
they're both really strong with female characters, aren't they?
yes, very strong female characters.
Mm.
It's hard to overlook their work in regards to strong female-led series, characters, all of that jazz. They get it. It never feels forced. Like, and none of their characters become like derivative either.
No. Well, I mean, I was going to say this as well, but Omega Bread can beat me to it, which was, he said she's older as well. So it's almost like a Nick Fury book with a female lead in some way, and that it's that. So we're doing it again with that, older character. I really liked it, and it's like the pace is good, and it's just not what you expect, because if you think you're going to have strong female spy, they're going to be lithe with their cleavage coming out, and it's like it's not that at all. And this is where the shift is happening, I think, in comics, and it's just she is like a really interesting character. Like her life is really complicated, and it's all that who do you trust and the intrigue of it all, and it's great.
It's really well done. Great book,
Really well
great
done.
series. And if you happen to be new to comic books, picking up anything Ed Brubaker is a pretty safe bet that you're going to get a good comic book story. Almost, I would say an 8 out of 10 chance.
Yeah,
You're going to like what you get.
Now, I actually had my number 5. I thought you were going to take it, so I kind of didn't expect to be doing it. Weirdly, and now I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to. So I might switch it up at the end and do, because I'm choosing between two that we've kind of mentioned, but I'm trying to figure out which ones we've mentioned the most. So because I've done a lot of DC tonight, I'm going to go with this Marvel book. So rather than an issue or story arc, I mean, by all means, obviously start at the beginning with Volume 1 of Ms. Marvel, No Normal, but it's also collected in this Omniverse, which I think is quite hard to get, but I have no doubt they'll release this at some point. So it's the Ms. Marvel by G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alphona. Mine is actually still in the wrapping because I'm saving it for my daughter. So I wanted this to be her first book, but she's still not quite old enough for this yet.
Great.
It's teen plus, but she's since had like Wizard of Oz Omnibus and everything as well. So other things have beaten to it, but it's such a good book. And I remember when this came out, and it was around the time when people were starting to complain that there was a lot of forced diversity, and I was a little unsure. Like, is this part of this push? Is this going to be a good story? Is the characterization going to be good, or is it true what people are saying about like agenda fueled stuff? And it didn't take long for me to realize that this is just an excellent book. Like, it's excellent. And as much as I was starting to get frustrated with Peter Parker as the everyman relatable Marvel character, it came a point where he just wasn't anymore. He had someone else in his controlling his body for a year or something, and then he ended up owning his own business and like a massive company, and then he destroyed it. Like, I can't really relate to that anymore, Pete. Sorry. Ms. Marvel is Marvel's new everyman character. And what a fantastic character she is. And like we said earlier, she's the nerd. She's the fangirl. She loves all this stuff, and that is part of what makes her relatable. Sure, she's a teenage Muslim girl, but I relate to her more than I relate to probably my age Peter Parker.
But that's the point, is that when it's done correctly, like when you hit the note where she's from, in regards to the United States, like the area she lives in feels very lived in. It feels like a real part of New Jersey. You
Yeah,
know that those places exist, especially if you live in a melting pot city. We have parts in Toronto that I could identify with having a certain demographic there. Her being from Pakistan, her brother being super religious, and
mm.
her maybe not feeling so, like, just her whole
Yeah,
family dynamic.
yeah,
When your family is new to a country or settling into a country and you're the firstborn of, your generation or whatever the case may be, that's a story that everyone will relate to.
it's the
I
outsider
read
feeling.
her, yeah. I wanted to list that again because I don't know how many times I've talked about Miss Marvel. It's one of my favorite series, and I wasn't leaving it out because I didn't think it was deserving. It's just that I'm probably going to mention it again somewhere else. I love that series,
I didn't check
especially
if
those
we'd read
first
it.
21 issues.
I swear we've mentioned it at some point, so that was one of the reasons why I wasn't going to talk about it. But
Oh yeah,
I want to say that this is a great book, and if you've been dismissive of it because you think like, oh, it's
great.
just that whole thing where they're making it,
No,
tick box, it's not. It's really, really
no,
good, and it was one of like when it
that's
was
in
at a point
that
just
wasn't it.
before, yeah, not at all. When it was just before Secret Wars, and I was starting to wind down a bit on Marvel, quite a lot, and I was becoming quite cynical in general about a lot of their output. That was one of the few books that really shone from that time. So it's after Infinity
Yeah,
when they revealed that Thanos has been getting it about all over the universe and there are Inhumans everywhere. Even though that contradicts continuity, Hickman, there are apparently Inhumans all over the place that don't know they're Inhumans, and then her powers activate. So it's almost like they were kind of doing the runner-up X-Men in a way, and that's where it
yeah.
starts. And it's her reacting to having the most odd, kind of uncool powers that you can possibly have.
That's that's the thing, is that she's awkward, and it seems like, is this Marvel? Are they really going this route as far as like the power set?
Mm,
It's clumsy.
mm.
She's 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 not sexy. Like every superheroine and superhero, there's always a sexiness to them, or
Yeah,
they become sexy when they become. And she's just still her. Not to say that she isn't the cutest thing, but it's it's more sweet. It's more innocent. It's more like you relate to her. Like, even though she might be a Muslim female, like I've said before, she's one of the most relatable characters in the Marvel universe now. And it
yeah.
didn't. I felt more like the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel was. They were trying to make her something that it never. For me, it never connected. Carol Danvers, the Kelly Sue DeConnick. I read the whole thing,
Yeah, me too.
some of it more than once, and
Oh, why would you do
it
that to
gets this.
yourself?
I
Sorry.
collected it in different spots where I find. So I read the first 6 issues one time to just test it out, and then when I went back to read the whole series, I just read the first 12 issues again because I'm like, this is good enough for me to see what's going on, and I was just. For me, it's not what people say it is,
Are they? Is
and if
anyone
it
actually liking
elevating.
that book? Do
Well, they
people
they
like
they're
it?
really really trying hard. They based a lot of what we get in the MCU off of
Oh,
that era of Carol Danvers, right?
yeah.
For some people, it was a game changer. I don't see how. I feel Miss Marvel was a game changer.
It was completely.
Great, great book.
When you go back, this is what I was going to talk about earlier, which was, and I won't bang on about this too much, but when you jump back and you look at a lot of the female led Marvel titles, they have to like Ms. Marvel as Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel went for 50 issues, and none of it was good. Like, I mean, at best, there were parts where it was okay, but it was never great. You know, She Hulk when John Byrne was on it was fun, but it was a very male fantasy series. Let's face it, sensational She Hulk. When on those two
Yeah,
bits where he was on it, the rest of the time when he wasn't on it, it wasn't a book to pick up. Even when Brian Hitch was drawing it, and I love Brian Hitch, it was an okay series at best. But again, like they didn't have the big star name. Brian Hitch wasn't famous then. They just put who was available on the book, and you could pick almost any female. And when I look at my shelves and all the Marvel books, they tend to be teen books or male characters because the female led books have rarely been that good over the years.
Yeah.
I can't really think of many
Yeah.
from before when this came out. What was a really good book? I can think of one, and we'll probably mention it next time. But after that, I've kind of got nothing. And otherwise, then you're delving into the team books where you've got female characters at the forefront. You know, the odd issue, or it so happens to be an all-female team at a certain point, which is almost for fun, or you know. But it's because again, it was always aimed at teenage boys. I remember when I bought an issue of Excalibur, and it had Kitty Pryde on the front in a school uniform. This is sounding really dodgy. But that's the problem. It sounds dodgy because I'm a middle-aged man talking about this. But I was a teenage boy at the time. Even then, I was with my mum, and she said, "Do you want to buy any comics?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll buy that, and that. How are these three?" Like, "Yeah." And one of them was Excalibur on the front, and it was Kitty Pryde jumping up in the air in a school uniform, and then the other members of the team were there in their costumes. And the title of it was like Girls' School from Heck, Part 2 of 3, or something like that. And she went, "Girls' School? Are you sure you want that?" Because boys didn't buy comics with female leads in at that time, in that era. You had the piss ripped out of you. Right. It's like, no, that isn't for you. Why are you reading a comic with a girl? Like, that's how it was. But,
right,
like, why? So, and that's the thing. Like, you come back to this now, and it's like, I'm so glad I read this book because I love it, and now I bought it.
I'm so happy you mentioned it. I'm gonna pick one from last year. I think it's too good to not mention. This made our top 10 list last year, our top 20 list of best books of 2022.
Yeah.
As I was going through all of the possible things that I could repick or remention, this is something we haven't spoken about since I think that episode.
You know, in the Ultimates, when they did that thing where it folds out and you get that one moment or maybe two moments where it's like, whoa, look at that. This is almost all the pages all the way through. It's stunning.
Incredible.
To look at. Never mind. I mean, the story is great. It's an absolute pleasure to read. But oh my God.
Incredible journey like that you're on when you're in this little fantasy world that J.H. Williams and Hayden Blackman. It's the same gentleman that did Batwoman.
Yeah.
But completely different. And yet they capture that same sort of magic. It's like, oh yeah, they would have been those guys that did that book because Batwoman isn't your typical Gotham hero story. It's a great team. Sometimes the team up is worth the price of admission. So those guys are working on it. Let's check it out. That's an example.
Yeah. On the back of what we were saying about Echolands, and actually again, Omega Bread beat me to it in terms of saying like there's been no sign of a volume 2. I think part of the reason for that is because it takes so long for him to produce. I'm hoping that's the reason because I really, really want to see volume 2. But I didn't see an awful lot of fuss about it in terms of like end of year lists. It often just didn't get mentioned. But you know who did mention it?
Who's that?
The Omniverse Comics Guide.
That's right, we did. And he was one of our first interviews, one of our first guests on the Omniverse. So if you want to go back to the very beginning of the year or the launch of the show, we talk about it. Echolands, of course.
Brilliant stuff.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on Twitch tonight and watching on YouTube later on and listening on your different podcast platforms. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a share. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't. It helps us make the show better for you. And of course, Dave, where do they go for the best reading orders, reviews, podcasts, and videos?
Well, they go to Comic Book Resources. So if Omniverse Comics Guide, obviously. Where you can get all those things and a whole lot more. And if you subscribe, you'll get even more on top of that. So there's all new stuff coming all the time, whether it be the What to Read Before entries, Book of the Dead stuff, there'll be the Many Arms of Iron Man. So there's all sorts of, there's a mix of stuff for subscribers as well. So also, don't forget, jump on our Discord. A lot of the folks that are here tonight, in fact, pretty much all are from our Discord. We're not even pushing this out on the live record on other things. We're just talking about it in the Discord. So if you do want to jump in our Discord, it's absolutely free. Get on, join in with the chat. There's all sorts of topics in there, and it's predominantly comics based. So come in and just have a chinwag.
Come and have some fun.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you again. We love you. We will be back soon. Dave, bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
International fist bumps, y'all. Boom!